Welcome to the IOOF building and the old Miami County Courthouse. We have basically two buildings. We have the original 1840-41 Miami County Courthouse that really grew up in Troy after the arrival of the Miami and Erie Canal. It was a very impressive building, as you can see behind me, a Greek Revival building, and it served the community as courthouse from 1841 to 1888. Toward the end of its time, the county and the city were outgrowing the building, and after a new courthouse was constructed, the front of this building was removed, and the IOOF, the Independent Order of Odd Fellows, built a three-story lodge building onto the front. My name's Ben Southerly, and I serve as president of the Troy Historic Preservation Alliance. The lodge really is a big deal because it's the dominant building in this block, and it is the centerpiece of an intact block of century-old storefronts. So to lose this building would be almost like knocking a front tooth out of the downtown smile.
What we have here is an example of this courthouse is the sixth oldest standing courthouse in the state of Ohio. My name is Martin Stewart, and I am a board member with the THPA. I think you lose something when you tear down the older buildings, the history that took place. It's the culture.
In January 2020, a freak tornado hit downtown Troy, damaging several commercial buildings. This building that we're sitting in was never repaired, and it soon became evident that the property owner had intentions to tear it down.
14, I believe, damaged buildings downtown, 13 of which were repaired almost immediately, and some of them more damaged than this one. And the THPA was actually formed early on in this process. It all culminated in last December, that would be 2023, a court-mediated settlement which allowed us to buy the building from the previous owner, and we were given very, very tight, almost unrealistic schedule of 4 months to either stabilize the building, which means make it the way the county chief building official wanted it to be, or we were supposed to demolish it.
The Troy Historic Preservation Alliance stepped up and agreed to purchase the building at full asking price, sight unseen, no opportunity to do due diligence, and we committed to stabilize the building by April 30th, 2024, or we would be on the hook for demolishing it.
My name is Jeremy Tome. I'm with the law offices of Waite, Tome & Eberly, LLP. Our main office is in Troy, but we have offices in Greenville, Sydney, Troy, and Xenia. My building is a historic building in the core of the downtown area in Troy, and it's on the National Register of Historic Places. Directly adjacent to me is the IOOF Courthouse building, and it's gone through several owners, kind of went into decline. I was obviously very interested about what happened to it because it had directly adjoined my building. It was built into my building, and I was made aware that someone had filed a permit seeking to demolish the building. So when I found out that the permit was filed, I objected to it, and then I was more broadly concerned about the loss of history and the impact that it would have on the view of the streetscape downtown. But we eventually did come to an agreed-upon negotiated settlement. It was one that I was very concerned about because it required the immediate acquisition of the building for $485,000 of a building that had been condemned and it was under adjudication order, and then it also required a very quick timeline for it to be stabilized.
People don't come downtown, we feel, to shop at strip shopping centers or malls. People come to see something unique, to see something different.
Downtown Troy is a very special place. You have the public square, which has been listed on the National Register for 50 years. It's a very intact place, and you really feel transported when you visit. And it's a beautiful place, which has really contributed to the economic vitality of the downtown. And then you go out from that a little bit and you still have these very intact commercial buildings and residential neighborhoods that really are unique to our community. And that's really what is special about downtown. When you come to downtown Troy, you really get a sense of this place. And it's worth standing up for.
Well, I think it's been said best in various forms by different tribal leaders and by some of our own philosophers. And properties that we own, we don't really own, we hold them in trust for future generations. I firmly believe in that myself, that I have this gorgeous building that other people took great pains to build and then to preserve. And the building next door has even more stories. It may be one of the most significant pieces of architecture in the United States based upon what its involvement was in the freeing of slaves.
The building that we're sitting in is probably one of the best time capsules of the city of Troy because it's the 6th oldest courthouse remaining in the state of Ohio. That courthouse has seen many, many historic events through the years. Everything from the registration of the Randolph freed people, a group of nearly 400 slaves, in 1846 under Ohio's black laws.
The Randolph slaves all walked in and stood right about there, presented their freedmen's papers to the county recorder. That's historic.
The Randolph freed slaves were considered property of a very famous Virginian senator. There were less than 400 slaves, but at the time that he died, on his deathbed, he renunciated his will to free the slaves, provide them with a stipend so they could leave Virginia, because in Virginia you couldn't live as a freed black person, and he wanted them to be sent to a state where slaves that had been freed could come. So they came to Ohio until finally they found a way to settle here in the Miami County area, which required them to go to the court to present their papers for them to be accepted by the court, for the court to make that in order so that they were in effect citizens of Ohio and their freedom had been acknowledged. And when I found that out, I was just stunned that we would ever even consider demolishing that particular building. It may be the most significant building in the city of Troy based upon that history.
Anything that happened in Miami County between 1841 and 1888, including the Civil War, the war with Mexico, all of that, all those people were here. We were criticized by a lot of people. They said, well, 30% of the building is gone, so all the history's gone. Well, if 30% of the building's gone, that means 70% of it is still here. So that's what you hang your hat on. Glass half empty, glass half full.
The history or the landscape in the community matters because ultimately it plays into what has made Miami County and Troy, Ohio, who they are today. So to see a building like that, especially when it's a grassroots effort from people within the community being salvaged, it's preserving history.
We believe very much in trying to salvage, buildings and historic structures as much as you can, as much within reason. And we really felt after walking through this building that it was very salvageable. The stabilization efforts that were required were still minimal in the sense of being able to save the building. It wasn't in total disrepair where really the only choice would have been demolition of the building. So once THPA, obtained the building, at that point we were all in and trying to do what we could to come up with a solution to save the structure and to stabilize the structure so that it could be used for a future tenants or multiple tenants, in the future.
We're here to stay now. We've learned from this experience the importance of being proactive. We see a lot of needs in the community for the work that we're doing, and we're very excited to continue to serve the community. We think our efforts can result in a more beautiful, more livable city for folks to live in for generations to come.